Hi, welcome to the Footballers Football Show. I'm Tam McManus. Joining me today is Ryan McGowan, and a special guest is Danny Wilson. Danny, it's great to have you on today. Obviously, you're still playing, 33 years old, carrying this man in the Championship. Livingston, great result the other night. Do you still believe as a group that you can win the league, or do you think it's maybe too late?
I think we've given ourselves, a better chance we had going into that game. I think if we're being realistic, Falkirk should probably get the job done, but all we can do is try win our remaining games and see where it takes us. And it was obviously a good result the other night. We've had a couple of them this season, but we've got another big game this weekend, and then we'll go back to league business next week and just do what we can do and take it from there.
What do you think the secret's been this season against Falkirk? Obviously 10 points out of 12. Has it been a tactical adjustment, or is it just you're just a bogey team? It's been like the results against them head to head has been incredible for Livingston.
Yeah, there's not been much in any of the games really. There's probably, I think the first one was a 0-0 draw, and we scored. Teddy Yengi scored a wonderful goal. It's kind of been the sort of story of the season, I guess, against them. But they are the best team in the league so far. Their points show that. And like Danny said, it's kind of in our position. We just want to win the remaining games, and then come the end of the season, if we do that, we'll definitely be second. Puts a bit of pressure on Falkirk, see how they handle it, and then head into the playoffs. But I think
give not really at least a chance for winning. You had to win the game, didn't you?
Yeah, we had to win it. If Falkirk won it, then that was kind of done and dusted. It still is definitely in their hands. We're relying on favours, but they still have to go to Ayr, which is a difficult place. Albeit Ayr have to come to our ground. So and then obviously the situation at the bottom as well. There's a few teams that are trying to get out of the sort of relegation spot. So yeah, it's been a good league, and there'll probably be a few more twists and turns. And fingers crossed we can try and pip them and win the league.
Obviously, you've played under. We're going to go into some of the managers you've played under, but working under Davy Martindale. Listen, Davy's a big character in Scottish football. How have you found working under Davy?
It's been really good. I've really enjoyed my time so far. He puts on good sessions. You obviously go in somewhere and you get or you think from the outside that there's a perception about him, but you go in and work with him day to day. He's been great. The level of detail he goes into, what he's got the boys trying to do on the pitch. He's very thorough in everything that he does, and like I said, really enjoying my time. It's a great dressing room, great staff. Everybody about the club's great. So just enjoying this time. Coming into the sort of business end of the season. We're still alive in the league. We've got a cup final to look forward to. So these are the sort of times in football that you need to appreciate. And
you've got obviously Brian Rice in there. Worked with Chipper at Falkirk. Are they a good kind of partnership together? Does Chipper take about the training?
Usually you get one that's the calm one. Good cop. They both chased 100 miles an hour, but it's good. It's good. Chipper's obviously been around the game for such a long time. Adds great experience to it, and obviously Neil Hastings as well, and Potsy, the goalie coach. They're a good balance in there. So it's, like I say, it's been enjoyable to go in and work there every day.
Sitting across from you is your teammate Ryan McGowan. You've played with some top centre backs in your career. Where does Gowser rank in the pantheon of centre backs that you've played with?
He's right up there, I think.
Has to be.
Yeah. He has to be, he's right up there. But you said, I'm carrying him. It's actually the other way about at the moment. I think, obviously, there's a lot of experience between the two of us, and I think, sometimes in football, managers don't really lean on that too much. But I think, David really does value that. You can see that throughout the sort of team that we've got, and it's a good balance just now. We've done pretty well together, I would say. Yeah. And hopefully we can continue that for this last stretch of the season.
I think sometimes you just click. Not saying that we're a big sort of partnership, but there's only just sometimes during games we'll just have a little look at each other, and if we're under the cosh, we'll know that the next 5-10 minutes we might need to sort of see it out. There's other times where we're like, he might need a rocket or he might need a little cuddle. So there is those partnerships that you want as centre backs or strikers or wing back and full back, that you want to kind of have a good understanding, and we've had a pretty good one so far, and long may it continue.
Yeah. Obviously you've played with some big name defenders. You came through at Rangers as a young player. From a very early age you were kind of hyped as the next best thing coming through. You had a great reputation as a young player. You came through, Davy Weir, Sasa Papac, guys like that. Did they help you bedding into a club the size of Rangers, particularly Davy Weir?
Yeah, I think I was really fortunate at the time I came through. sometimes when young boys come through now, they've maybe not got those people that they can lean on. Whereas I was coming to a team full of international players. So I'm not saying it was easy for me coming in, but when you've got those players around you, it does help. I was coming to a team that was successful. They just come off the back of winning a league championship, so they kind of knew what they were about, and everybody, there was a great experience within the whole squad. Obviously being put in the back four at that time, I was surrounded by Papach, Davy Weir, Stephen Whittaker, Cutter Broadfoot, Alan McGregor behind goals, Neil Alexander if Alan McGregor wasn't in. So it was good. I had a lot of experience around me, a lot of help, because obviously as a young boy you're making mistakes every week, but you've got those guys to kind of lean on or to bail you out. So it was a great experience for me, and I find myself very fortunate to say that that was the team that I was able to make my debut in, because sometimes when you go in you're judged very quickly, but I had that experience to lean on and guide me through.
And it was Walter Smith that gave you your debut at Rangers. How did you find him as a manager? Obviously one of the greats in Scottish football, but for him to put you in as a 17-year-old, he must have had great faith in you.
I think he did. I think I didn't really know that going into it, that he obviously he gave him a debut, and then usually when you get your debut you kind of maybe not seen again for a little while, but I was fortunate enough that I made my debut on the Wednesday, and then I stayed in for the next 9 games, so I went Saturday, then the following Wednesday. So it was came around really quickly and didn't really have too much time to think about it. Looking back now, you'd say that was probably a good endorsement of you as a player, that he felt that he could do that with me. And then obviously at the same time as well, there was probably times I wasn't doing so well. He never really, I would say, had a go at me. I think he was probably, he was coming towards the end of his managerial career, and I think he was more mellow than he probably was, in his previous years. Everybody's seen and heard stories about it, but I never really experienced that. But there was always that, that part of him that you knew it could go if he wanted to. But I think the players had too much respect for him and gave him everything that they could. So, a great manager to make your debut under, and looking back now, it's a real honour to say that you played for him.
When did you find out that you were playing? Was it a couple of days before? Was it a late injury?
It was the day before the game, so it was a cup game. So we played Dundee, and Dundee were they were the championship at the time, but they had a good team. They had Griffiths, Harkins, all those sort of guys. So we went up there to Dens to play them. We won 3-1 on the night, and I thought I did fine, but like I say, you're never really sure how well you've done or what, and you're not really expecting to stay in from there. But I was lucky enough to do so. But found out the day before the game, and I don't know what you when you found out you were playing your first game, but I hadn't at that point even made a sub appearance or anything like that. There was a couple of times when I was warming up, had been on the bench, and someone did go down, and you're thinking, I don't know if I'm ready for this or not. And my thing was, when I was in the youth team, they were sort of you might play in the first team, but you could maybe have to start at left back to just get yourself seen. And I never ever liked playing left back, and I always thought to myself, if a left back goes down and I'm the left back that goes on, this is my one chance. This is this could be it. This could be it. That's it, done. So I was fortunate. I actually played with Papach the first game. He played right centre back, but obviously he was a left back.
Was he a good talker? Was he to talk you through the game, or
no,
was he not really?
He didn't say a word. No, he didn't say a word.
You're on your own.
But I had Papach. Stephen Smith played left back. He was a Cameron influence as well. So. But yeah, he didn't talk through it, and that he was if you ever met Sapsa, you'll understand he's a really quiet guy, but really nice guy, but just really quiet. But it was obviously great to get in there, and then great to stay in for the period after I did.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you made your mark at Rangers. 25 games later, a club the size of Liverpool come in for you. And how did that move come about? Obviously you hadn't played a lot of games for Rangers. Obviously the excitement you must have felt when you heard a club of that size was coming in for you. Did you feel that you were ready for it? Not ready for it, but I think when you're a club like Liverpool, you are ready because you just think I want to go. But did you think?
Yeah, I think when I
were ready to
when
go?
I was told about it, I didn't it wasn't that I didn't want to go. I don't want to seem disrespectful, but I didn't think it was the right thing for me to do.
Right.
And I did want to stay at Rangers, and I thought I was going to stay at Rangers. And then, as time progressed, I realised that Rangers wanted me to go there to take the transfer fee.
Right.
And sort of that interest came around about Christmas time. So I'd made my debut like late October and played up until just before Christmas. And then the interest came, and then I was kind of in contract talks with Rangers, and then.
So you were prepared to just
I was
prepared to turn down Liverpool to stay at Rangers?
Yeah, I was
interesting.
because I didn't think that was obviously Liverpool's a fantastic football club, but I was 18 at the time, so I was just turning 18 at the time, so I didn't think it was like the best thing. I thought, stay at Rangers for another couple of years and then see where you are after that.
It's unusual to hear that when you're younger players now. You would think at 18, you would think. Yeah, a club like Liverpool.
I think
it's refreshing to actually hear that he wanted to stay and play games, because not all young players do that, do they?
Yeah, but I also think that footballers also get sort of targeted like that. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. It's like Temps when my situation with him and at Rangers. The club basically came to Temps and was like, "You need to go." He didn't really have a choice. They've already accepted the money. You get that feeling instantly, like you would have been having talks. Everything's kind of going well. Did they hear that a club like Liverpool's coming in? Those talks would have changed instantly in terms of you then start feeling, well, they actually maybe they want the money. They want me to go. And then you having to then look after yourself and be like, right, I need to make the best situation of this. Like you wanted to stay at Rangers, you felt like that would have probably been the best thing for his career. But if the club doesn't want you and they want to accept the money, then you need to go to
Liverpool. Obviously found out that the club wanted to sell you, and then...
Yeah, it was like... I think they wanted, they would have kept me, but it was with an intent to sell probably very quickly afterwards. Right. If they had wanted to keep me, but we couldn't agree on certain things, and I ended up, it was like, yeah, this is what's going to happen, and it got to that summer, and I moved, and I don't regret going. It was a great experience for me. It was a fantastic football club, but you just wonder, like, if I had stayed, what would have looked like, now looking back on how my career would have gone after that. Because I went there and I knew it was unlikely I was going to go in and be a first team regular.
Who was the centre backs at Liverpool when you joined?
Carragher, Dan Agger, Martin Skirtle, Kyriakos was there.
That's horrendous.
So yeah, there was loads, and there was other guys that could fill in there at different times. And the thing that I always remember, like, when I was a young boy at Rangers, there'd been, like, maybe when I was really young, like, a chance to move, like, down to England. And I always remember someone saying to me, like, if you think about it, if you go now, you've been at Rangers all this period of time, and you've probably got favour with some of the coaches, and they're going to push you a little bit more. And then when I went to Liverpool, I felt when I went down there, they had young centre-backs there that had been in the system for a long period of time.
And they wanted to push
them more.
It looks better on them as well.
It looks better on them as well. So it was tough. It was tough trying to break in, but like I said to you, I hate playing left back. I played a couple of games at left back. And to be fair, I think I played 3 games at centre-back, and, like, we conceded 1 goal when it was a penalty. So, like, I felt like in the games that I played there, I did all right. But did I do all right in the games at left back? Probably not.
So obviously Roy Hodgson was the one that signed you. You went down in the summer. Were you instantly involved straight into the first team, training with the first team? You were
I was in the
recognised first team player.
I was in the first team dressing room, like, my whole time there. It wasn't like I was, shunted out or anything like that. I went on a couple of loans and stuff to try and get some games, and enjoyed those when I was there. But yeah, I was right involved right from the start. But it's, like, frustrating because you go from, like, at least when I was at Rangers, like, I knew that if I wasn't playing, like, every week, I would still have, like, a chance of, like, being involved and stuff. And I suddenly went from that to sometimes I wasn't even in, like, the travelling squad and stuff. And that was probably, the first time in my career. I say my career, I was like 18 at the time. I didn't have a career to speak of, but all through the youth system going up and stuff, you're used to playing every week and looking forward to your game on the weekend, and
one of the better players, and
everything's like kind of going well and you're on an upward trajectory, and then suddenly it's like, no, you're not involved this weekend, and you don't really have this sort of, you don't have the coping mechanisms for that, and you say you get the weekends off and you're not doing what you should be doing on the weekends, and things start to turn, like, they can turn quite quickly. It becomes difficult.
So obviously you went down there in the summer. Pre-season, you went in, the level was obviously a bit higher than it was at Rangers. Some of the players you played with, guys like Steven Gerrard, you know, did you go in there straight away and think, I'm out my depth, or did you just think, I could handle this level? Initially, when you first went?
I didn't think initially. I was like, oh, I'm out my depth. I'm terrible. This, that, and other. But it did. You could sense the change in the level, and it just felt that the training was like really different there. Whereas like at Rangers, like I said before, it was like guys that had seen it and done it. So the training was like kind of structured in a certain way. Whereas Roy Hodgson had just taken over as well, so he was trying to get his ideas across. So sometimes when you were doing things in training, it's tough to stand out. Like a lot of it's maybe like pattern play or this, that and the other. And if you're doing pattern play and you've got, like I said, those centre backs in front of you and they're doing the reps before you're doing them, like you're not going to shunt them out, you know, the team by you know, doing that. Like it's not likely to happen. So it was like a completely new experience to me. Like a completely new world down there. So it took a lot of adjustment, but when you start to not be playing games and stuff, and you don't feel fresh and you don't feel fit, because you know, as a young boy, like you've got to. I was like a young boy now trying to make my way into that team, and I found it quite difficult to do, especially as a centre back as well, because there's only so much you can really do in training as a centre back to try to put yourself in the team.
Even when you're on the match day squad, I used to go into games when I was at Hearts and be on the bench, and you just knew that you were never coming on unless someone seriously got
it's different for a defender than it would be for a striker.
Whereas strikers or wingers, you think last 20 minutes chuck them on. Or if you win it, like even when teams are winning, you don't see your centre back coming off and a young centre back coming on. It's very rarely do you get that even 20 minutes, 30 minutes exposure, and it's probably why it's so tough as a centre backs here. Strikers get an easy job to actually get into, you know, squads and teams and displace the players that are in front of you.
Some of the strikers at Liverpool at the time was.
So when I went, was Torres was the main striker.
Torres. Not against him in training.
Yeah.
What was he like
the games?
Day to day?
Really quiet.
Yeah.
Like just went about his business. Obviously he'd been part of like the really good Spain team, and so I went 2010. So that was World Cup they just won. So he's just come back from that. Nah. He was just, like I say, he was just like dead quiet. Like you wouldn't like
down to earth.
Yeah, but I think like he was at that time wanting out of Liverpool. So I don't think I saw.
That when Chelsea were sniffing
so
about?
He signed for the Chelsea in the January.
Right.
So I don't think he was probably. I didn't see the best side of him, if you know what I mean. But even not his best side was like a top player. Like I've heard people like talking about it, like saying that the only game he turned up in that season really for Liverpool was against Chelsea, because he wanted to go to Chelsea and he scored twice at Anfield. And his 2 goals are like great goals. It's like typical him playing off the shoulder, scoring goals. But he obviously moved in the January and they brought in Suarez and Carroll as the replacements. And then obviously you learn pretty quickly that Suarez is like a top player. I don't know if like the initial idea was to play Suarez alongside Torres, because the Carroll thing happened right at the last minute.
Yeah, it was deadline day, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I just don't know if that was what they were thinking. And if you could imagine a fully fit Fernando Torres who's at it and Suarez up front would have been quite incredible, but it never got to that. And
obviously the 2 main linchpins at Liverpool at the time were Gerrard and Carragher.
Yeah.
Did Carragher help you as a young centre back? Did they try and obviously just thinking to yourself, this is something to take my place?
So I not because I was going there, but I'd read Carragher's book. So he always says a bit in his book.
He read that as soon as he heard Liverpool's interest. He bought Gerrard's book, he bought Carragher's book.
So I'd read it like maybe like a year or 2 before, and he always says that if a new centre back came to the club, that he wouldn't be like friendly with them, or he would this, that, and the other. So he was always all right with me. So
didn't see him as a threat. Didn't see him as a threat.
He's all right. He's a left back. He's not even a good left back.
Carragher and Gerrard, he was trying to smash him training.
He was good because I was number 22 and he's number 23. Right. So our lockers were side by side. And he was good. Gerrard really. Like,
was Gerrard intense? Was he the leader in training? Was he the one that put the demands on the players in training? It strikes me as that type of guy who would drive standards.
Not really. Like he was like he just sort of like led by example. I would say like the vocal one was Carragher.
Right.
He training every day was I'm not saying he was the best player, but he did everything right, if you know what I mean. Like every passing drill, the pass went to exactly where it was supposed to go, at the right way, everything. And he was intense when he had to be intense. There was times when he probably wasn't in the team, because he was coming to the end of his career at Liverpool, and he was probably getting frustrated as well, but you would never really know, because every single day he was bang at it. But Gerrard was obviously a quality player, but that Liverpool team at the time wasn't a great Liverpool team. Yeah. They were really in transition. It was just after Benitez had left, and there was obviously everything was up in the air with ownership and what have you. So I probably didn't see the best side of him. But like I said, that side of him was still a top player. So
Roy Hodgson left, and did Dalglish come in after that?
He did.
How was it working with Kenny? Obviously a Liverpool legend. How was he as a manager?
He was really good.
Obviously a Scottish player as well. He maybe gave you a wee bit of a
he gave me most of my games. Yeah.
Right.
No, he had. So what happened was I'd kind of got frustrated, because I wasn't playing. I'd gone from playing and suddenly wasn't involved. And he came in and he said to me look, you're not going to play every week, but he says I will give you games. We were still in the Europa League at that time and stuff. So he's I'll give you games when I can. And he was true to his word. He played me in the Europa League game, so I did get some appearances that year. But he wasn't, he'd obviously had a lot of time out the game by that point, from when he'd been a manager. So he wasn't an on-field coach, as you would say. Steve Clarke was his assistant there,
right?
And he did all the sessions and did all the analysis and that, and he was really good.
You can see why, Steve.
Yeah, you can see why. He'd obviously been at Chelsea with Mourinho, and this was him sort of making the next step to. I think after that he ended up going to West Brom, and they had a really good West Brom team. They finished well, but he.
So it's no surprise to you that he's
no surprise at all, because he was very thorough and very much what you could imagine. Mourinho being like. You know what I mean? Every video session, every kind of breakdown of the analysis in another team was spot on, and like I said, his training sessions were good, really intense but enjoyable. And Dalglish sort of just came alive sort of on a match day, the meeting before the game, and more like a motivator. And when you're working with someone like that with his standing in the football club, that's sort of what they should be doing. He shouldn't have to be on the training pitch every day. Sometimes you get coaches or managers like that. You've probably worked with them as well, like that. They don't say much, but when they do say something, everyone listens, and it goes across a little bit better, rather than the same voice every single day. It holds more weight, really. How did the Liverpool players handle Steve Clarke coming in and taking it all those sessions? Because you just said it's a team that was maybe a bit frustrated. Benitez has just left. Probably a lot of them have maybe not heard of Steve Clarke coming in. Was it one of those cases that after a week with his training sessions, everyone's he actually knows what he's talking about? And I think with footballers, it's tough to kid them, really. Straight away. But at that level, you're talking. Yeah. Even at that level, he had the respect to all the players, and he got it really quickly. I think obviously from being the assistant at Chelsea as well, that everybody knew of him. But then when you see him working, quite quickly, the players are nah, this guy knows exactly what he's talking about. It's funny because just now there's a lot of stuff about him in Scotland and what he's done, but when you look back at that, that's 10, 15 years ago. He's basically running training sessions at Liverpool. He has got so much thing, and every single player that has played under him or played with him has said what a good coach he is. And
I think you
forget that a little bit.
Yeah, I think his record, not only as an assistant manager, obviously at Chelsea and Liverpool, but then he goes to West Brom, does really well, comes up to Kilmarnock, and Kilmarnock were in the bottom 2 or 3. Yeah. I think Lee McCulloch was the man. I think maybe took over for Jig, and he finished third with Kilmarnock. Kilmarnock have never been anywhere near third since, really. No. And then he goes to Scotland.
It wasn't by luck. It wasn't by
no. They beat Celtic Rangers. Yeah. Remember they done it and they went to Europe, and so I'm not surprised to hear that about Steve Clarke. I actually forgot he was at Liverpool, but I remember with Kenny Dalglish, he was there, and obviously Kenny left. Brendan Rodgers came in. Did you get a chance to work under Brendan? Yeah, I did the pre-season with him, and again it was different from Kenny. It was he'd obviously been at Swansea, and he'd brought them up, and then they were playing really good football, and I think that was kind of the route Liverpool wanted to go down. And he came in, and it was a little bit like you're saying, does he get the respect straight away because he's maybe not got that hadn't had that standing yet in the game. Yeah. But again, he came in and he seen quite quickly he knows what he's talking about. Sessions were good, his detail was really good in everything that he did, and
not immediately did Liverpool, go on to be successful, but and they sort of built it up over a period of time. I think a lot of it comes down to your players as well. Like there was probably his first season, he didn't have the players to do what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
But then he started to get in players like like the Sturridges, the Coutinhos. Sterling had some exposure to the first team by that point, and you start to build your team that way. And obviously by the end of it, it was really good, and they obviously ran City close to the title. Probably they'll still feel disappointed they got over the line with that one. But good to work under. But with the time he was coming in, like I kind of knew that my time was coming to an end. So to be fair, I was still involved with the first team, involved in the sessions and stuff. But I knew at that sort of stage I was, needing to play more regular football. So.
Just going to go into that, you obviously 21 years old. You went to Hearts on loan. Ironically, there was restrictions. I think it was a 1 in, 1 out. And you could only join because Gauza went to China. And what an upgrade! What an upgrade that was for Hearts to get somebody up on loan for Liverpool and you out to China was phenomenal for Hearts. But you obviously came in at Hearts, and Hearts are a big club, and you went up there and played regular. How did you enjoy your time at Tynecastle?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Obviously, it was an initial sort of 6-month loan, and ended up staying for 2 years after that. Obviously, 2 completely contrasting years. One of the years we got relegated, we had the 15-point deduction, which was tough, and then there was even more restrictions put in because obviously we couldn't sign anybody. We were kind of.
Do you think that brought the club together? I think that brought the squad together?
Yeah, I think so.
It was just that pool of players.
I think so. I think the difficult thing was the team was so young. I think I was 21. I was the 4th oldest player in the squad. We had obviously.
Was that Lockie? Gary Locke, the manager?
Gary Locke was the manager. With Jamie McDonald, Ryan Stevenson, Jamie Hamill were the older ones of the group.
It's not a great 3 as well.
I really liked all of them, but so it was tough because you were bringing through basically a youth team to play in the first team, and we were relegated with 5 or 6 games to go, but we got relegated right around when the split happened, and it was funny because we'd had sort of maybe players that had played like 30 games by this point, and you could see that after the 30 games they were much better placed going into it, and then when the pressure was off, the pressure suddenly on the other teams, because that was the first year of the relegation playoffs. So we, after the split, I think we won 4 and drew 1 or something like that, because it was just like we didn't have that pressure on us, and obviously the young boys had the experience. So we finished the season really strongly, and then going into that summer the takeover happened, and then we obviously in the Championship we go on to have a really, really good season. Finished first in a league that had Rangers and Hibs in it. So it showed that we got there in the end, but it was a tough period, but really enjoyed my time at Hearts.
You definitely think those, obviously I was kept a close eye on it, those 30 games that those younger players got, Jamie Walker, Sam Nicholson, Billy King, all of those players, that definitely helped them then going into the Championship. And you see it so often with managers, you need to continually play young players and let them make mistakes. The benefit most clubs have is they can take them out and they can put them back in, whereas Hearts, that was their downfall. They couldn't actually switch it up and they couldn't bring someone out the firing line for a couple of weeks. But it does show you that if you play them and give them 30, 40 games, give them that confidence that as they learn and almost learn on the job, you do get a better player out at the end of it.
It's tough because obviously as a manager you want to be seen to be promoting young players, and I think there is like a much more focus on it these days. But like you say, they have to make mistakes. Like they're not going to learn any other way, and with young players you're going to get that. When we had a team full of them, it was difficult because everybody's making mistakes. Even myself, like I'm still learning the job because I've not really played much in the years beforehand, and it becomes really tough, and you can't get out of that sort of slump, and that's what it was getting like every single week. But like you go into the next again season, 30, 40 games under the belt, they're all at it, obviously a different level. But when Robbie came in, it was like, no, we're going to continue this, and I think it really helped us as well because he brought in a couple of experienced ones.
Osman Sow came in, remember?
Osman Sow, Neil Alexander was in goals, Morgado and Prince were in midfield. And everybody it just felt a little bit better, and it felt that season I think we won 29 out of 36 games, so we were a really good side, and it was, like I say, looking back on it now, I don't think many teams will really get close to that total in that we got the record, and that's
particularly the quality teams that were in it. You know,
Yeah.
with Rangers and Hibs in the Championship. You know, it's obviously Rangers would have been the favourites to win it. And I remember you beat them early doors. Osman Show maybe scored 1-0 at Ibrox. I remember that game, and I thought Hearts could really go and challenge this season. And obviously Hibs are up there as well. But you won the Championship with Hearts, then you become a free agent, and your old club comes calling again, Rangers. Yeah. Was that a difficult decision to make, or were you looking forward to come back and maybe getting the games that you thought you maybe should have got at the start?
Yeah, I really enjoyed my time at Hearts. I always felt like even when I'd left Rangers, I always wanted to go back at some point. So when they came round, it wasn't. I'm not saying it was an easy. I always wanted to go back, but they probably weren't in the situation at that time that would have looked really, really appealing. You know, they'd just been beaten quite heavily in the playoffs by Motherwell, and everything was a little bit up in the air. And I wasn't really sure where I was going to go. Because
obviously Hearts won the Premier League and Rangers won the Championship.
Yeah, So
was it hard leaving like a big club like Hearts to go to to Rangers, the Championship?
Anyway, so it wasn't like I wasn't desperate to leave Hearts. Obviously, because of my time at Rangers, I'd been at Rangers from I was like 8 years old to when I left at 18. So there was a huge pull for me to go back there. So it wasn't done quickly either, because that summer obviously there was the playoffs, and then it took a while for them to appoint, you know, Mark Warburton and Davy Weir. And it was actually Davy had messaged me when I was on holiday saying like, "What are you doing?" And there had been a couple of things, and I was just waiting to see what was going to happen there.
Were you not bothered at the time that Rangers were still in the Championship? Did you think?
No, because I think that I knew that that wasn't going to be a long-term thing. They were going to get up, and obviously as players as well, you have that bit where you think, well, if I go there, I can help them get back. No, it doesn't always work out that way, but that's the kind of the way you think about things. But I knew, like, when I signed there in the early parts of the season, I was like, yeah, we'll go up and you know, get back to where we belong, and I'll be happy to be here, hopefully for many years in the Premier League. And it didn't work out that way either.
No, you go back to Rangers, and guys like Kenny Miller were there. It was always a different Rangers from when you left the first time in the Premier League. Some financial restraints and still in the Championship, but still quite a strong Rangers team. Who was the experienced guys in that team that kind of helped you along?
So there was Kenny was there, Lee Wallace was there. We didn't have like I remember turning up to pre-season, and we didn't have like a huge squad. It was like a lot of young boys and stuff, and then as time went by, we started adding through the pre-season. So we got Andy Halliday came in, Jason Holt, then we signed Rob Kieran and Tav, and then Martin Waghorn. We signed them, and the team sort of started to take shape. Temps was there. Temps unfortunately got injured first game of the season and never played again that season because it was quite a bad injury. But you could see that we had the makings of a good team, and we didn't have a massive squad at that time. I think the manager wanted to bring in more, but he felt that if he could keep everybody involved in the group rather than having a huge squad and just having players there for the sake of having players there, he was wanting more sort of that, going down that route with it.
How did you find him as a coach, Mark Warburton? Because what I've heard, he was a really, really good coach on the training pitch.
Really good coach, really clear on what he wanted.
He had a clear style of play. I remember the criticism he used to take at the time. He had no plan B, and stuff like that. But
I think he got like quite a. People always went back to that saying like, "Oh, there's no plan B, there's no this, there's no that," and I think he was kind of criticised because his was plan B's do plan A better. Just like, well, that doesn't always work and stuff. But I think obviously the makeup of our squad, it wasn't like we had like 6'5" centre forward that if things weren't going right we could just start launching balls and stuff like that, and that's not the way we wanted to do things either. So I think he was, you know, really clear on what he wanted, but we as players, we kind of agreed to that as well, you know, like it wasn't
it's more enjoyable to play that way.
It's difficult because obviously sometimes as well when it's not going right, if you're the two centre backs and your full backs are really high and you're exposed, it's difficult for you, but like, you kind of agree to that and you know kind of where things are. And you just say, right, okay, that's beating us this week. We accept that because that's where we know we're going to be vulnerable. But it was enjoyable to play, and we played some really good football at times under him. Got some really good results. Got back to the Premier League. and I think he was only there 6 months in the Premier League or something like that. I think, you know,
should he get more time at Rangers?
I think so. I don't know the full ins and outs of why he left. I think that's still like a very grey area for a lot of people. But you know, you look at, had he been backed a wee bit more, what sort of quality players is he bringing in? You just don't know how things would go. But I think if he had been given more time, there's every possibility that.
Were you there when Joey Barton came in?
Yeah.
How was that?
He was fine.
How was he like as a player in the dressing room?
Be honest.
Do you think people aren't being honest? No, honestly, like, see if he was like sitting like this, like chatting and stuff. Really good guy.
Yeah. Was he harsh on players in training?
He could be.
Yeah.
He could be, but I don't think he came from a place of like just getting on people for the sake of it. I think like he had standards that he felt sometimes weren't being met, and you don't mind that sometimes as a player being told.
As long as you're doing it.
Yeah, like he was, but I felt like he came in and he trained well and things like that. But we would have like team meetings and stuff, and you know the thing from the management was, you know, he didn't mind you speaking.
Right.
But obviously, someone like Joey, he does like to speak and he likes to give his opinion. But sometimes if his opinion and the manager's opinion, you know, aren't the same, then there's obviously going to be, you know, a bit of a collision there between the two of them. And that's, I think, what happened. I think there was a lot of things were made of the situation when he left. But we as players weren't really aware of it, because what had kind of happened on the training field wasn't something you would look at and say, oh, it was a big story or a big point. Like, nobody really mentioned it.
Nothing heated in the dressing room between them.
You can only assume that whatever happened was between him and the staff afterwards, or whatever it may be, because there was no real issue there from the player's point of view. So yeah, he obviously was suspended for a period of time afterwards, and was that
for something that obviously he'd said to the manager, or an argument he had with the manager? Was there an incident with Andy Halliday as well on the training pitch?
There was an incident, but it wasn't something that doesn't happen every
other week. Yeah,
it was just one of the things that nobody really gave much thought to, and then we never saw him again.
And that was him.
That was it. And
what was the biggest difference you noticed from leaving Rangers when they were sort of at their peak and moving down to Liverpool, then however many years back, coming back in the Championship? What was the noticeable differences that you know, having been at the club, then coming back in, was there anything straight away that you were like, this is not what it was like 5-6 years ago, or was it still kind of similar?
Yeah. It was just a completely different feeling about the place. I don't know how to put my finger on it. It's just like it was a different feeling. It was like obviously a lot of different staff. Players were completely different. Like I said, you go into that team that I was in the first time, and it's full of international players, experienced players that have won leagues and trophies like throughout their career. Whereas we were a completely different side at that time. We were young guys that were trying to prove themselves, guys that had maybe gone places and hadn't quite worked out, and then they'd come to Rangers and they were trying to help us re-establish. So it did have that feeling of we're trying to get somewhere, rather than when I was there the first time we were already there. You know, so that was probably the main difference, I would say. And I think, you know, to try to get to that level again is still where they're trying to still go, because obviously they have had, you know, certain success over the last period of time, but it's not been a sustained period of success. And I think the first time they were at that level. They would, like I say, they'd won the league the year before, won the league the year that I was there, and then they won the league after. So it's like a sustained period of success. They've not really had that yet, and I think they're still striving to get there. But we felt we were really in the infancy of, we're a championship team. We need to make sure we're the best championship team and go up with something to spare. And then once we get there, in the next season, we need to build again and build again. And it just felt that it fell a little bit flat.
Obviously, you left Rangers, and MLS came calling. Colorado Rapids, my favourite part of the show. You had an opportunity to go to Colorado. I remember you were supposed to phone me or text me when you were going. I was going to give you some information, but you blanked me. But you went to Colorado Rapids. I've obviously had been there in 2008. Loved Denver. You know, I'd went from Dunfermline to Denver, which was some upgrade. No offence to Dunfermline, who are throwing money about, but going for Rangers to Colorado Rapids. You know, listen, from my experience in MLS, I remember when I first joined, firstly, Colorado altitude. How did you deal with that? Because I was struggling, I couldn't breathe for about 3 months. And then, secondly, I didn't feel there was the same intensity in the USA and the MLS. And when you got onto players in training, they would just go into their shell, like American boys. You couldn't have a go at them. They would just completely crumble, and the same intensity wasn't in the stands. So how did you, firstly, the altitude in Colorado when you went there?
So first game, I got there on because my visa stuff, they had a Champions League game, and it was like mid-February against Toronto, and it was -15, right? So it's -15, so I've got there, I've trained once, so I'm on the bench for this game, and it's freezing, right? And I hadn't trained, it'd only been day before the game, boxes and stuff, so the altitude's not really hit me yet. So after the game, it's like, right, subs, bit of running. So I've gone out and I've started running. I'm like, oh, I don't feel good here. I don't feel good here. Everything's just burning inside, in here. And I'm like, okay, right. So I get through it. It wasn't that much. It was like 8 strides or whatever, and this, that. So I've gone home, and I'm sitting there, and it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and my wife's sleeping, and I'm just on the end of the bed. I can't get my breath. She's like, are you all right? I'm like, I don't think so. Because they talk about it. So seeing that when you go into the stadium, they've got this big mural, and it's basically just this speech about altitude sickness. And I'm like, that's me. That's what I've got. It's it's really tough. What I did notice, I felt, so when you talk about the intensity and stuff, I know what you mean. The actual intensity of the games when we used to play at home was really quite slow, because teams are coming and they're not used to the altitude. Yeah. So they would just sit in, and it was quite difficult. And it would always be
the weather, if it was warm as well.
If it was warm as well on top of that, because people think if they've not been to Colorado, you think Colorado's cold because they think of the mountains with the skiing and stuff like that. But when you're playing in the summer, it's 30, 35 degrees, and you've got this altitude going on. So the game is going to be slow, because it's just impossible to do keep that intensity up. But I really enjoyed it. Playing in the altitude was
but once you get used to it, that was the fittest I had ever been. I remember the first couple of months being there, I really struggled with it. The first couple of days I stayed in a hotel, I just went over myself, and they had to break the door down in the hotel. I think they must have thought I was dead, because I took these Tylenol because my head was bursting with the altitude, and it totally knocked me out. And there was the guy who was picking me up was banging my door, thinking I can't get hold of him. So that was the altitude, and but once I get used to it, the first maybe 6-7 weeks I'd go away from home, and you go to LA, you go to Houston, whatever it was, and 90 minutes you're just like that. I couldn't believe how fit I was, but it did take a period of time to get there.
But when you would play at sea level, you would feel amazing. Yeah. But see, when you would go back and the first day you would train back at altitude, you'd feel terrible again.
I know,
it was weird. And then, do you know what? We were weren't a great team when I got there, and we built up over time, right?
You weren't when I was there either.
Built up over time. But do you know what really killed us was when we would play at home, we would always score late against teams.
They would tire.
It's they would tire, altitude to get to them. And what killed us was, see when they introduced the 5 subs.
Yeah.
That killed us, because they could change, and what teams would do would be, they would come and sit back for 60, 70 minutes.
Bring on,
and then they would change. They'd bring on the tricky 10s and the wingers and stuff. They'd be like, I don't want to play 60, 70 minutes here, but I'll play 20. They would come on, and you're knackered. This isn't great. So but it's a great place. And I'm glad. When I was leaving Rangers that time, again, I'm going to tell you, I didn't want to leave, but I was really enjoying it.
Obviously, the other options, but what attracted you to the MLS was
I wanted to do something completely different,
right?
And that one just appealed to me. I was like, that's different enough. I think I didn't want to go anywhere else in Scotland. I'd already been down to England, and probably could have went and given it another crack, but it didn't go well for me the time before. So I was like, nah, this is completely different. Let's go. Did
you have a wife at the time? Was she quite happy to go over as well?
Well, she was pregnant at the time, so it was a big transition. And my son was only 2; he just turned 2. So it was a big upheaval, and looking back on it, it was a really tough time, because it's so different. Because we think Americans are, they speak English, they're just like us. They're not. They're completely different. They're so positive, and we're just not used to that being Scottish. You know what I mean? They're just so positive.
So positive.
They are. They're
getting beat 4-0 or something. Come on, we can still come back. You're like, no, we can't.
we got beat. We got beat off Salt Lake heavily on the Friday night,
which is obviously the big game of the derby.
We had 2 players sent off in the first half, right? So we've been hammered, right? And I think we got beat 5, maybe even 6-0, right? It was just terrible. But we've got a meet and greet with the fans next day. And if that's here, it's get that cancelled, right? Get there and they're like, hey, you'll get them next time, buddy.
Aye. Just when you're saying that, I remember my home debut was against Chicago, and it was a big hullabaloo, new signing and all that. And I remember, honestly, 5 minutes into the game, they had a corner, and their goalkeeper got it and threw it, and it was like a 4v2. So anyway, it's been worked and it's been squared to me about 6 yards out, just literally right in front of the home fans. I've just got to score my debut, and I've skied it. Right, and I'm thinking, I just did my knees like, oh fuck, that's a bad start at a new club. And at any other club in Scotland, they'd be going, you're shite, McMahon, get him off. All the fans when they go, unlucky McManus, nice hustle, man. And I'm thinking to myself, I could play here for 20 years. They don't mind if you're shite. You can be shite and they don't want you.
You should have went there when you were 19.
I know, and you're right. Listen, win, lose or draw. The first manager we had was a Uruguayan guy, and win, lose or draw was like seeing a bus the next day. We got the guy Gary Smith, who he was completely different English guy. He was more professional, which probably led to me leaving. But he was more professional in it. But as I said, when I was there, the big names were Landon Donovan, David Beckham, Juan Pablo Angel. Who was the bigger names when you were? Obviously, you were there for a period of time. He was a big.
Zlatan was there.
Yeah.
Chicharito.
Wow.
Rooney played for a bit, but they kind of changed. Like, so, first few years I was there was they were going after the big names, but then they've changed it now. So see with the salary cap and stuff like that now, they've changed it. So it used to be they could have like 3 designated players, and often that was like made up of like the Zlatans, this, that, and that. But they've changed it now, so you can have like 2 DPs and like 4, they call them like under 22 initiatives. So what they're doing now as well, because they wanted to make a more sustainable league as well, they're bringing in like these players from like Argentina, Brazil, like younger players. They're going
21, 22 rather than 30.
They're unbelievable.
And they're really good. You can really get yourself a lot of bother if you're 1v1 with them big. But no, the league was like, there was good players throughout the league. There's a lot of players in that league that haven't, like, people have never heard of, and you'll play against them and you'll be like, why has this guy never played anywhere else? There's like a guy there, and I think he's won, I want to say he's won either 3 or 4 teams, and there was a period of time where I remember reading the paper and he was linked with Celtic. His name's Darlington Nagbe. He's a centre midfielder, and probably everybody would go,
Portland.
who's that? Portland. What a player. Like, never gives the ball away, like up and down all the time. Just players like that you'll never hear of here. But when you go over there and you play up against him, you think he's a proper.
Totally agree. I remember we played with a guy at Colorado, Pablo Mastroeni, who was the captain, and he was, what a footballer he was, and he played in the MLS all his career, and there was rumours about him going to Real Betis and stuff like that, and he was quite happy to stay in Colorado. But I look at guys like that, and you're totally right. And other guys that I played against, I'm thinking, how is he not in Europe? How is he not playing for a big club in Europe? But I just think they looked at the MLS as not a backwater, but not a great league, which I think has changed now. Sometimes
it's difficult for them because of the visa restrictions and stuff like that as well. It's not so easy. So a lot of the American players that are playing in Europe now, like they play for the national team and stuff, some of them have got like dual citizenship with other places and stuff like that, and it does make it easier for them to come across. There's other ones that they just simply can't get it, so they end up staying there unless their team's willing to take them as like an international player or whatever it works out as in Europe and other like non-EU players and stuff. But I think that league is getting better and better.
Especially now with Messi. I mean, I made a joke. Like, their team's a joke.
They brought in Messi to, give it more exposure going into the World Cup. They're hosting the World Cup next year, and the hope is, I think they're hoping is, once they host the World Cup, even more people will want to be involved in it. And I think they will get there. I think it's going to struggle because there's so many other sports in the US.
Yeah, it's not having an agenda. It's in terms of airtime and the TV and all that.
I think it's getting better. Like, obviously Apple have got like the TV deal and stuff like that, so every game's on Apple, which I think is a good thing for people that are interested in it. But it's never going to displace all the other sports that they've got there. Can you imagine being a player at Inter Miami now, like just even like a jobber, like even like Megan over there, and playing with Suarez, Messi, Busquets, Jordi Alba. Yeah. I mean, I just can't believe they've got all their players. I don't know what they're doing, but fair play to them.
There's a little Ryan McGowan at that Inter Miami who's just plugging away.
That's what I'm saying. Imagine being like just a wee guy. I mean, it's
changed. Little Scuddy, and he's just walking and just shaking his hand.
It's changed now, because when I was there, they paid the young boys buttons, like the guys that came from college. It was like $14,000 a year or something, and they guys were playing with Beckham. So when I was there, LA Galaxy were bottom of the division, like Ruud Hullet, Abel Xavier. Remember the boy who played with Middlesbrough with the beard, Landon Donovan, David Beckham, and then the rest of them were just college kids. They were crap, and the room, I'd heard from people that they would go out for dinner. Beckham had to buy their dinner, like we had to go out for dinner and meals and for drink after games and all that, and they couldn't afford to go out, like the young kids. But it has changed now. Listen, you were lucky enough to play for Scotland as well. There's 2 guys in this couch that have played against Brazil. We've heard about Gowser's stories, getting scudded by Neymar, but
6-0.
You obviously played against Brazil. How was that experience for you?
Got scudded off Neymar. Scored 2, I think. I was on the bench in that game. We played them at the Emirates.
That's right.
For some strange reason. So I came on. I think I came on for like the last 20 minutes, and I was quite lucky because at that time it was like Brazil would basically stop. Yeah, they would.
Right.
I came on, and I think I was playing at the back with Gary Caldwell, maybe.
Big gas.
And Neymar's picked the ball up out on the left, and he's cut in, and he's went past whoever the fullback was at the time, and Gaz has wiped him out, and I'm like in that covering position, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I was going to have to do that. So I'm glad he's done it before he's got to me. But yeah, he scored the penalty. But it was
good experience to play against.
It was great.
Just to see the yellow jerseys and play against them.
It's one of them, like. I wasn't really playing club football at the time as well, so I was going away and I was part of the Scotland squad, but knowing that probably shouldn't really be here because there's other people that are playing for their club teams ahead of me and stuff. So I was sitting on the bench and thinking, I'm not going to come on, like you say, there's no real reason for it. And Craig Levein was just like, right, get ready, you're going on. And I was like,
centre half.
Yeah, looking after him.
You got to steal the caps when you can. You know what I mean?
Like, you played for Hearts, so
so he brought me on, got like 20 minutes.
Did you get anybody's jersey at the end of the game?
Yeah, I got Lucas Leiva.
Right.
So I was talking to him and then just swapped jerseys with him.
Who did you get when you played Brazil?
Paulinho.
Oh, midfielder.
Yeah. Number 8.
Exciting.
Yeah.
It's exciting, that one.
I wanted Neymar's.
I take it all the boys were desperate to get his.
Someone knew who someone, and they got his. So I just got traumatised for him for 90 minutes, and then someone else got his top.
Oh well.
Did you play right back against him?
Yeah, right back.
Oh.
Him and Marcelo. Can you just imagine me in Brazil? It was so hot.
Still speaking about him in Brazil now, by the way.
This lanky Aussie just standing there and just looking in front of me, and there's Neymar, and then just look there, and Marcelo's afro's behind him. Just thinking, what? There must be someone else.
You like the way midfield player tucking.
There'd have been guys in the stand just going, I could be better than that guy out there. It was so out of my depth.
Listen, it's something that's memories that nobody can take away from you. To go and play against Brazil in an international game is fantastic. Finally, before we finish, Danny, a couple of questions for you. The best player that you've played with?
Don't need to say me just because I'm here.
Ian Murray said me. Ian Murray said me yesterday, by the way, and started laughing. He did. He started laughing.
I would say there's obviously like the one.
You've got big names, obviously you played with, but who?
Yeah, like obviously like there's obviously like the Suarez and Gerrard, like, but I didn't really play with them, if you know what I mean. I trained with them, played not very much football with them, like, but probably. Tough one, that, actually. I'd probably say Stephen Davis, like just all-round footballer, like football brain. Like he was a centre midfielder who in that Rangers team played like on the right at that time, but like just everything about him, like could do everything on the pitch. And then obviously when he moved more centrally to where he was more suited, he was, you know, the best player in the country for periods of time, in my opinion anyway. But yeah, I would say him. But I've been lucky enough to play with some really good players, you know, kind of throughout. And there's a lot of players as well that you play with and you don't really realise how good they are until you're playing alongside them, like this man right here. You know what I mean? So it's tough to always say. It's tough to say who's the best because there's ones that do a job for the team that other players wouldn't do.
Yeah, underrated players that people would think.
And I always like the underrated players a wee bit more as well, because it's hard doing that job for the team sometimes.
Best player played against? I just mentioned them there.
What, Gauza?
No. For Brazil?
Mate, I played against
Zlatan as well for LA.
Yeah, well, he was good, but you just don't know. Like, he left LA and went obviously back to Milan, so obviously he was still a top player, but you just never knew how into it he was, because he went to LA and scored quite a few goals.
But his body language wasn't always great, was it?
Great. You could just tell he was like really frustrated as well. Like, because like you're saying, like
it's like Beckham playing with the guys back in the day.
But I played against him twice and he didn't score against me, so I've always hold that. Yeah. We always had like a good record against Galaxy, but yeah, he was good. I think Rooney was really good when I played against him. But Neymar for that 20 minutes was probably as good as I've seen, and obviously I hadn't watched live, thinking like he was, because he wasn't like Neymar. I think he was still at Santos at the time. Right. So he wasn't even at Barca at that time, so it was like all the hype.
So you got him when he was easy.
Yeah.
He was
so you got the finished article?
I got the finished article. That was a different ball game.
He was on the left leg and I stayed as far away from him as I could.
I can't say I'm stunned that I heard Big Gary Caldwell chopped him. that was a certainty.
Was there someone that like no one's ever heard of that you've played against and come off and just been like, wow, he's just absolutely rinsed me for that 90 minutes? Or someone that's not as big now?
There's a guy, he played for Montreal, right? And I didn't know who he was. His name was, I think, Nacho Piatti, I think his name was. He was a number 10.
Italian guy?
I don't know where he was from. From another planet. But like, he was, I think I played at the time and he must have been about 36, and I was playing holding midfield for some reason, and he's the number 10. And see, when I say, like, no matter what I did, I couldn't get near this guy, and he's like 35, 36. Like, if I went tight with him, he would just float away somewhere else. If I tried to stay off him, he nutmegged me. Like, it was just like, I was like, who is this guy? But like, yeah, like you see, no one would really know who he is. But like player Valeri from Portland as well.
Yep, remember him. Good player.
Good player.
Centre midfield player.
Good player. Played against a guy, played for Portland, Blanco, and his name's Sebastian Blanco. Again, I was playing centre midfield against him, and I was just like hatchet man midfielder. And he's turned round and like, he didn't really speak much English. He's turned round and he started shouting at me, "You're a horse, you're a horse," right? And I was like, "I think you mean donkey, but I get what you mean."
Oh, God.
And I was like, "Yeah, you're spot on."
At least it's a horse, not a donkey.
No, listen, Danny, it's been fantastic for you coming in today. You've had a fantastic career. It's been great to get through it, and thanks to Gauza for coming in as well. Thanks for watching and listening, and please subscribe to the PLZ YouTube channel.